Alright, so in this video we talk about how do you go on to create a second revenue source, right? Probably if you're working at some place, maybe the money that you're earning is not enough for you at this point, or possibly that money is enough but you want to have an additional source of revenue, which is a very good thing to do. But you're unsure of how do you go on to create a second source of revenue. So in this video, I'll talk about one of the things that I did when I wanted to create a second source of revenue for myself way early in my career. And we'll talk about multiple ways in the future video, but in this one, I want to share that example. So while I was working with a mentor, his name was Craig, and he was helping me set up my online fitness business. So that thing was working well, but since I was starting the business, it takes time to just get the revenue coming along and start making profits. So I was looking at having a second source of revenue which could take care of my other expenses and all the allied expenses, and probably a little bit of a leisure spending also. So I was thinking of different ways now. I thought of starting a second business, but then I realized that hey, if you start a business today, the money isn't coming back tomorrow. It takes a while to set a business up. It's not a cakewalk. So I am waiting for revenue to come in from the first business, and while I start a second, that's going to take in a little bit of more investment. It might actually take money out of my pocket. So then that's not a wise idea. So let's chuck that. So then I thought, hey, should I go, probably get a part-time job? But then I was like, I'm putting in about 14-15 hours on this business, and if I go get a part-time job, I might get distracted because that might take up at least 7 or 8 hours out of my schedule. So then what's a good way? I thought of multiple ideas. I made a list of at least 25-30 ideas on paper of what I could do to get a second source of revenue going, but none of it eventually was something that could have been practically implemented, given it wouldn't affect my business. So I did the only thing that I could think of. I reached out to Craig, who was my mentor at that time, and I told him, hey Craig, I am a little confused here, and since I'm working under you and you're my mentor, so I am looking at starting a second source of revenue. What do I do? Can you help me? Can you throw in some ideas that I could go out and implement? And he gave me a suggestion which was, what, I am looking for somebody who could help me do X, Y, and Z in my business, and they need to spend about 4 hours a week with me, either in person or online, and get certain things done. So I was like, you know what, that sounds really cool. I could do that. So can I pitch in, and can I get paid for it? And he was like, he thought for a second, like, yeah, why not? And I was like, that's really awesome. And since I was getting paid in dollars, that was pretty decent money for me, right? So here is what I'm trying to suggest to you guys. A lot of times when you're trying to start a second source of revenue, we look at all the options in the world, but we don't look at things that are in very, very close proximity to you. Think of who are the people in your social circle, who are the people that you know of, and how could you possibly help them in their stuff and get paid by them. It could possibly be your uncle, it could be somebody on your Facebook friends, it could be somebody who is a friend of a friend who may need something that you know or you could do, and that could help you start a second source of revenue. Or it could just be as simple as, I know one of my friends did that. So I think it was drawing about 65K salary in an IT company, and since he was getting married, he wanted to buy a house. He wanted to bump up his salary to about 90K so that he could pay for the EMI and still buy a car and still have a good good life ahead. So what he did was he reached out to his team manager. He told him that, hey, I'm okay taking up additional responsibilities. Let me know what can I do, how can I pitch in to increase my salary from 60K to 90K. What resources do you need? What courses should I do so that I want to stick around in the same company, but how could you increase my salary? So how could I pitch in? So the manager told him that, cool, we are looking for a person who could take care of this, this, and this, and should know these skills in a certain language, programming language. So in the next month, he went out, he did a course on the programming language, and Then he got promoted to a senior position, and his salary was increased to I think 80K, because somebody who was going to be hired for that position was going to be paid that much. So it was a win-win for both the company, because they were already paying him 60K with just 20,000 additional. They could have somebody who they were looking for a specific resource skill, and it was a win-win for him because his salary could dramatically jump up. A lot of times we get tied up into our own belief that, hey, since I'm working in the company, the growth can only happen, sequentially. Probably each year I may get a raise of 10%, 12%, 13% hike depending on my performance. But a lot of times it's all about going and asking, right? So that's one of the things that you could do immediately. Go and ask, how could you bump up your revenue, and what are the additional skills you could bring to the table. And if there's an opportunity, right, since you're already working at an organization, you would be the first person to be given that opportunity. Hey, if you can bring in these skills, why not? We are happy to pay you that much, right? So go test that out, or go see how you can, through your skills, reach out to somebody in your social circle and help them with something that they need that you possess, and you could make that second source of revenue. But once you make that revenue, don't spend it and waste that money in buying shoe, phone, cars, and other allied stuff. Invest. We'll talk about this and other stuff in detail in the next video, and I'll talk about more strategies of how you could start a second source of income and revenue.